It's 2024 and I think a lot of players still have this on their Bennett. Hi, this is Earlbedo. In this video, you will see if it's worth activating Bennett C6. We will also clear up some major confusion and misconceptions with it, as well as do some damage tests to see if it's really bad or not. But before we start, please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon because I publish new videos every other Tuesdays and Saturdays. Thank you. If you are a new player or if you do not know yet, Bennett is one of the best supports in Genshin Impact, even outshining 5-star supports. We will not focus on his kit here, but basically he gives a ton of attack based on his base attack while also healing. It's crazy that Hoyoverse created a monster support like him who has synergy with a lot of meta characters early in game. He is basically a broken character, but there is one thing many players seem to not agree with, that his 6 constellation is actually good and beneficial. Now, before we dive into that, bear in mind that I will mostly talk about C0 5-star characters here since most people do not have 5-star cons. This way it will be more relatable. A lot of players got confused by Bennett's C6 description, so let me read and explain it to you. It says here that sword, claymore, or polearm wielding characters inside Bennett's burst will gain 15% pyro damage bonus while their weapons are being infused with pyro. It seems to be straight to the point, right? Basically, melee characters will gain pyro infusion and 15% pyro damage bonus, as you can see with my Diluc. That is not the whole story. You see, even long-range characters like Yanfei, Yoimiya, and Lini, though they will not be infused with Pyro, still get the Pyro damage bonus inside Bennett's Burst. And that is, I think, one major factor why people are not activating the Pyro Archon C6, because the description is quite misleading. I even look up online and not a lot of players know about this. On the other hand, as Yanfei main, this is one big reason I activated it. Now that you know how Bennett C6 actually works, let's talk about why people are not activating this infamous 6 constellation. There's actually not much reason, and I think some of it is so exaggerated by the community to the point it has become a meme. The first reason is because the Pyro Infusion will ruin most physical builds, especially for normal attackers like Eula, Rosaria, and Zhongli. Here, Shinobu's even built as a physical normal attack dealer on her initial release. So if I miss any or some characters here, please mention it in the comments. But the thing here is, meta-wise, elemental reactions will almost always outdamage physical build. So unless you're a physical build main, this will not matter to you. To add, there are already workarounds to boost your physical damage dealers without Bennett that we'll talk more about later. The second reason is, I think, more impactful than the first one for the average player. Some elemental infusion is ruined, so characters like Ayaka, KEQING, Chongyun, Fremine, and Lynette will be affected. Their infusion will be converted to Pyro because of Bennett's C6. For Ayaka, her best freeze team actually does not include Bennett. Furthermore, her main damage source is her burst and not her normal or charge attack. So having C6 Bennett as an Ayaka main will not really ruin her gameplay unless you exclusively use her normal and charge attack cryo damage. KEQING, on the other hand, now has another team option to utilize her Electro Infusion, which is Aggravate. So again, there are now options other than Bennett, which I think is great because for a long time, before Sumeru, we were so attached to only using Bennett because most characters rely on his attack buff, which is actually insane considering he is a 4-star character. Speaking of options, Chongyun and Fremine's Cryo Infusion and damage with their skill can now be complemented by Shenhe. So far, it's Lynette that might be greatly affected by C6 Bennett if you play her with normal and charge attack. One more character whose infusion gets overridden by C6 Bennett is C6 Kazuha. However, I did not include it here because not many players have it, but it's good to know. To be honest, there are more benefits than drawbacks when activating C6 Bennett. First off, there are actually more characters that are not affected by Bennett's Pyro Infusion. This includes characters that have elemental conversion rather than infusion like the Raiden Shogun, Ayato, Xiao, and many more. Conversion basically means that their weapons infused with their elements are not affected by other infusions such as Bennett's Pyro Infusion. However, seems to stop making characters, especially 5 stars, whose elemental infusion can be overridden by other elements since in Inazuma. Except maybe for Lynette and Fremine for some weird reasons, but I hope this continues. It just doesn't make sense to have another character affect another elemental infusion at this point. Obviously, we also have bow and catalyst users who won't really get affected by the infusion. As mentioned earlier, they will still get pyro damage bonus, but we'll talk more about that later. That is why I did not include some pyro characters here. Lastly, there are characters who don't really use Bennett in their teams. Or if they do use Bennett in their teams, they actually don't care about the Pyro Infusion and the Pyro damage bonus. They may or may not be infused with Pyro, but C6 Bennett will not really affect their gameplay. For example, even if we use Xingqiu with C6 Bennett, because Xingqiu is an off-field sub-DPS, you won't really notice any changes. As you can see, if we line them all up, there is actually quite a lot, but please note that most attack scaling characters here will still benefit from Bennett's attack buff, even if they are not affected by the fusion or pyro damage bonus. This reason alone might be enough for some players to be convinced that C6 Bennett is actually not that bad. But if you're not yet seeing the benefit, the next reason might be the one for you. The next reason why activating C6 Bennett is actually fine is because he is a universal buffer for most attack scaling characters. But at C6, Pyro characters will receive an even better buff. From the description, melee characters will mostly benefit from his constellation. Diluc will obviously be a great example since his kit utilizes both the Pyro Infusion and Pyro damage bonus. Also with the release of Flea's Adeptus Xiangling, his high plunge attack multiplier combined with Bennett's C6 buff and Xiangling's plunge buff, he will most likely be more significant again. Speaking of new characters, alongside Xiangling's release is Gaming. We still have to test and know more about his kit, but most likely he will benefit from Bennett's C6. So make sure to subscribe to my channel since I will make more videos about those characters when they are released. Another character that will greatly be buffed with this constellation is Xiangling. She already is a monster, but with Bennett's attack buff, Pyro Infusion, and Pyro damage bonus, she surely will devour enemies in the Spiral Abyss even more. Not to mention that they are paired almost every time since Bennett is Xiangling's best support and battery. and Soma, though he is a support, still benefits from this. What I am more interested in talking about is Hu Tao. I know some of you might be laughing at me why I included Hu Tao here. I can't blame you because she is an HP scaling character. Her passive also gives her 33% pyro damage bonus when her HP is below 50%. In addition, her signature weapon gives her additional attack bonus when her HP is below 50%. With that, it is important to know that her damage actually scales with attack. It's just that her HP is converted to attack. It's very similar to Ito's defense conversion. That is why if you have Hu Tao but you do not have the Staff of Homa and you're using other weapons, this actually could work. Without Homa, Bennett can compensate by providing tons of attack and pyro damage bonus. Also, bringing Bennett to the team will give them the effect of Pyro Resonance, which will give 25% attack. To prove my point, here is a damage test. I have Hu Tao with the Staff of Homa, so let us switch it to the deathmatch. For the control test, let us use her typical double Hydro team with Zhongli. Here, Hydro Resonance is active, which will increase her HP. Zhongli will shred resistance. Xingqiu will provide Hydro application, and Yelan will provide damage buff over time. At most, she deals around 76,000 charge attack damage, which is not that bad. Now let's switch Yelan to Bennett. This time, Pyro Resonance is active, giving her more attack. Here she actually deals higher charge attack damage at more than 81,000. You see, there are many other factors here, but this is just to prove that C6 Bennett actually is not bad at all, even for Hu Tao. This is mainly why I C6 Bennett, because he also gives pyro damage bonus to long-range pyro characters. If you do not know yet, I am a Yanfei main. So after some careful thought, I finally gave in and activated Bennett's notorious C6. What's great with this is his buff actually benefits all bow and catalyst wielders. So if you're a Yanfei, Amber, Klee, Yoimiya, and Linemain, you'll surely enjoy having C6 Bennett. Reason number 3. After years of waiting, during the release of Sumeru, we finally had a new reaction that focuses mainly on 2 elements, Electro and Dendro. For the longest time, attack scaling Electro characters relied on Bennett's attack buff. For KEQING Mains, having a C6 Bennett will ruin their account. But with the not so new reaction, which is Aggravate, Electro characters can finally use other supports than Bennett. This is a big deal since this means that a new roster of supports are finally given to us, which also means that we can use Bennett in other teams when we are playing the Spiral Abyss. Another reason why having a C6 Bennett is okay is because Genshin Impact has been HP Impact for many years, but with the release of Fontaine and Farina, HP scaling characters shined even more. Having more HP scaling characters means that there are more teams that do not require Bennett. Reason number 5. Dedicated supports now exist. Just like what I said earlier, physical teams can now shine without Bennett since supports like Mika now exist. Other element-specific supports like Kujo, Sara, Goro, and Shenhe makes the game more diverse since we are not relying on a single character to buff the team anymore. And just recently, we were introduced to a new broken overload support, which is Chevrus. Another benefit of having a C6 Bennett is you get to try fun teams. Some examples are on-field Xiangling, or even self-melt Kaya or Rosaria. You can even try Hu Tao with Bennett just like we did earlier. There are tons of other teams you can experiment with, especially when you do not have resin anymore. We are now on the final reason. With the prior reasons I stated, I think Hoyoverse finally realized that the game should not only revolve on a single character. With the recent updates, it is proven that there are great and even better teams without Bennett, while retaining his synergy to attack scaling characters and not ruining the experience we have. That means Bennett's teams still remain very strong, like Raiden National who can devour the Spiral Abyss, all while having the option of picking supports from the great roster we have now. On the other hand, Natlan is coming very soon. So I hope C6 Bennett will synergize with the next region's mechanics and characters. We just need to hope for the best. So comment below if you would activate your C6 Bennett or not, or if you already did. As for me, I have seen more benefits than the cons, so I activated mine. I still think that saying Bennett C6 will ruin your account is an overstatement and is very misleading. What I would recommend though is to weigh the pros and cons of having a C6 Bennett on your account, then you decide. We reached the end of the video. Again, this is Earlbedo. See you next time.